in China the primary social media platform, messaging service, but also many other things, is WeChat, right? So you have the WeChat accounts, and so you'll have your WeChat, your personal WeChat, but then you will sign up for various accounts, which then will send articles to your phone, and it's all very centralized that way. So you have these like massive poetry blogs. There's another one. I remember that you were very kind to translate the poem Macclesfield Hospital, the one I wrote about my brother.
Yeah.
And that was picked up by another poetry blog that also had tens of thousands of fans. And so before I knew it, your translation had featured on this blog, and that person, the owner of this particular blog in China, found somebody to be a voice actor to read the poem and your translation in English and Chinese as part of a performance. And that all happened organically because there's such a culture, you know, with Chinese poetry fans in China using WeChat to kind of understand all this. And that's really fascinating. So I'm just going to move forward a little bit and address one more part of this in my mind. I mentioned before that you were so kind to translate myself and other people writing in Beijing, people that you have referred to as Spittoon poets, right? So the medium of poetry, once you've brought it into Chinese, the images survive from what I would say is a Western context, right? So, you know, I myself, I'm British. Simon Shearer is American Chinese. Sarah Costa is Portuguese. David Huntington is American. So the experiences, the images that they've accrued through their poetry translated to China, to Chinese, what were some of the reactions that stuck in your mind from the fans that absorbed that poetry once it was offered to them in the Chinese language? What kind of reactions did you get?
I think, because, I mean, there were a couple of things, like, because my blog, it's, you know, it's especially about poetry. So people kind of just know that I'm going to introduce important or very good poems. So I think maybe people just trust me, you know, like my judgment, or I don't know. Yeah. And number two, you know, talking about my readers, some part of them, like, for example, they are artists, writers, you know, kind of a professional people, but a large number of them, they are young people, because I'm trying, it's like, yeah, I'm getting older, but I don't want to be left behind by the cool young guys. So I'm trying to sometimes like bring music, art also, you know, together with the poetry. And Matthew, I remember like the other day, I just put on a video of, yeah, a video of your band, right? Performing in Beijing, right? So to my readers. And also talking about translation, I think translating foreign poetry, I mean, it has been there in China for decades, because China started to be open to the outside world, I think, not at the very beginning, at the beginning of the 20th century, especially in the year of 1919, when what we called the New Cultural Revolution, like a couple of very important Chinese guys, they studied abroad and they wanted to introduce this modern culture into China, and like, for example, they reformed the language just to be more modern, to be more colloquial, you know, things like that. I think that was a very important year. And then later, China got opened again to the outside world in the late 1970s. And I I think, started to introduce a lot of foreign works, literary works, art works into China, especially in the early 1980s. And I remember at that time I was a teenager girl, right? Especially in the year, for example, 1986, 1987, I remember like I woke up and like everybody was reading Freud, you know? And then, of course, all of the other modern writers like Virginia Woolf, William Faulkner, James Joyce, these three like modern writers, and later Proust from France, and of course a lot of other, you know, modern writers. So I think the Chinese readers, they have become accustomed to, you know, that kind of foreign culture that was introduced or translated in the modern, in these days, of course, the quite contemporary Chinese language. So that's why I see me and my readers, we understand each other, what we are doing, right? And also, you just mentioned that the time I, you know, just translated some authors from the Spittoon community, like you, and up to now, I think maybe 5 or maybe 7 people. You just mentioned their names. Okay, I think, yeah, like these people, yes, I mean their original works, for example, written in a Portuguese language or English language, but translated from the English. Like, for example, Sarah's work, Sarah put it into English herself, and then I put her English into Chinese. I think all the original works, of course, got kind of identity, because with the authors, for example, national identity, racial identity, cultural identity. But I do understand that there is a common ground for all those works. That is, we are modern people, you know, we are living in the same time. So East or West, we are experiencing the same issues for today's people. So that is why their works actually can speak to the readers, and they enjoy them very much. Yeah.